Blake Lively's lawyers are condemning all the recent attacks from Justin Baldoni. These aren't attacks. These are him defending himself legally. We got to talk about his legal suit. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. We just went through the whole shebang, the whole complaint. It is like 80, 90 pages. And if you want to watch the full live, go become a member over on Patreon. You'll be able to watch the replay. We'll have it for you there. But I thought it'd be most beneficial to read through and summarize the ending of the lawsuit, which actually does get into a lot more specifics, especially detailing how Blake Lively allegedly took control of the entire movie. This is something Blake has not owned up to or admitted, and I imagine there has to be more proof of this if this goes to trial. And I hope that really, if Justin and James, if you really didn't do anything and this is all accurate, do not settle. See this all the way through discovery so we can prove that Blake Lively and Ryan bullied you out of your own damn movie. It's really important, I think, just to reiterate, there were issues for the first month or so, or whatever it was, a couple weeks of filming, and then they had to stop for the strike. And then Blake Lively's own suit acknowledges that once they came back, everything was fine. Yet somehow, throughout production, she took over the whole movie and actually removed him not only from the edit bay, but from the premiere. And it's shameful. And then apparently, allegedly, according to this lawsuit, a lot of this hasn't really been reported on as in much detail, forced him out completely and bullied Sony, saying, I'm not going to promote the movie unless you take my cut over his. So I want to go through sort of the top line of these things. It's really worth reading. You can watch the full recap. I'll become a Patreon member. I'll put it in the pinned comment, the Patreon post, so you can watch it over there. If you're not a member, please consider joining over there. But it starts over with her. Basically, she had an executive producer credit, and that's just what talent gets in these types of movies. But then she sort of took over the wardrobe. Now, a lot of people criticized her wardrobe. My wife and myself included. We were like, what is this look? This was all Blake Lively's look, and she demanded it. She sort of basically took over the wardrobe person, who was a really professional wardrobe person, basically, and the director's vision all got ignored, as then Blake Lively demanded that she, pretty much change the whole wardrobe. In fact, at one point, she insisted her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes. So Wayfair, Justin's company who financed and put this whole film together and merely hired her to be the actress, now suddenly had to allow her to have all this extra wardrobe and stuff that completely ballooned the budget and delayed things particularly. They agreed, they let it happen, but this eventually was a mistake, because this is how it sort of proved. This concession of letting her take over the control of the wardrobe proved regrettable. Then on the first day of shooting, paparazzi caught one of these bad outfits, and the internet was very upset, especially Sony. Sony was allegedly the one who then went to Justin and said they were very concerned about how the film was looking, what the public was saying. That's why Baldoni went to Lively in a trailer to discuss the adjustments that he wanted. Conversation, while professional, took considerable time and was grossly misinterpreted by Lively's complaint. It was not a lengthy outburst at all. He alleges that it was a real conversation, though, and then at one point he received a genuine compliment, which made him tear up, which then she used against him and manipulated it, is what he's alluding. She would do this a lot. A troubling pattern of manipulative behavior by Lively. At that point, she began rewriting the script. They then find out on the red carpet that Ryan Reynolds created some scenes. Nobody knew this. She was also rewriting the script daily during the reshoots. Frequency of these revisions alarmed the producers, and it was every day of the shoot, disrupting production. Shooting was already intricately planned. Her constant changes included significant stress on the production crew and financial strain. Again, this was all bad news. There was also, we're going to get to the humiliation from Ryan Reynolds in a second, but all this happened over the months leading up to the film's release. Her collaborators consistently scrutinized interactions with Baldoni and employed tactics that fall squarely within the definition of gaslighting. This behavior pressured Sony, Baldoni, and Wayfair into ceding control to Lively at every turn, resulting in her domination of nearly every aspect of production. She then sets the stage for coercion by drafting a protection letter that intentionally misrepresents the nature of the conversations had. Now, again, it's a lot to read, so I want to summarize here. That whole 30-page thing, they say that they never even got it. There was a 7-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before she would return. They disagreed with those conditions, but a lot of these things were things that were already in place, they say. And so she demanded an intimacy coordinator to be present. There already was one that she was not meeting with. Anyway, they took no issue with all this because it was all stuff that happened. And so they begrudgingly agreed to this note. Then there was talk about meetings with the intimacy coordinator. They were talking about the X scenes that they were going to have together. And that's apparently, instead of what Blake alleges, that Justin was adding unnecessary scenes together, those apparently were scenes that were written by the intimacy coordinator. So again, if this is true, there should be proof. And that's what this, the alleged extra scenes that he was forcing on her were. No, they were coming from the intimacy coordinator, he says. He has notes to prove that. Lively's claims that Baldoni made her feel unsafe when he used the word sexy was ridiculous because she used the word sexy, which he proves in text messages here, saying that no, this would be sexier. The lawyer makes a very good point of why is she allowed to use the word and then Justin's not allowed to use it later. To use this language herself and in turn make a note of each instance where her director used the same language to describe wardrobe is at best a double standard. To generate a list of demands to insinuate that he and his business partner acted inappropriately is calculating and even extortionistic. But to then use Wayfair, Baldoni, an agreement to not do something they already did not do, where we're not doing and had no intention of doing as the basis to file a non-public CDR complaint against them and release the public herself in order to ruin their reputations is defamation. And the Times, who they're suing in this claim, is directly complicit in this. Now they go in, and I want to get to this because there's a lot to go through here and you can watch it all if you want to get in the details. But I want to get into the part of where she really begins to take over the film. Now they address the walking in the trailer unannounced. They deny this. They say that wasn't the case. There was immediately a lot of stuff where even she says, I know you weren't trying to cop a look, but it all just reads from their point of view that she was sort of trying to collect any little moment she could to paint a bigger picture later to take control. They received that protections for return production request. They only found out about that later in the actual document. They say something like that actually never came to them. The whole 30-page thing wasn't something they actually ever saw. There was some tentative agreements that they agreed, but there were already stuff that was in place that wasn't happening. Here's where it gets interesting. So they're invited to Reynolds' apartment, Blake's and where celebrities are coming in and out. And Reynolds allegedly demanded an apology for fat shaming Blake Lively. Baldoni resisted apologizing. Reynolds became further enraged. Everyone, including the producer Lively hired and a representative for Sony, all left the meeting in shock. The producer offered that in his 40-year career, he had never seen anyone speak to someone like that in a meeting. The Sony representative said he wishes he had one regret was that they didn't stop Reynolds from berating Baldoni. Now, again, if these witnesses get pushed to, what's the word, Kim, to...
Deposed?
Deposed, thank you.
Yes.
That'll be very telling. It'll be very telling. Sorry, there's a lot I'm trying to recap for you guys as we're wrapping up our stream. But yeah, again, these witnesses are pretty telling if that actually happens. Now, again, continuing to go through all this, they were unsettled. Reynolds is now demanding things. They're forcing these contracts, etc. All of it gets really worse when she takes over the film. Now, after all the shoot went well, it was a resounding success. This is her own words. Filming resumed without further grievances. She says that. So everything worked well after that alleged meeting. Yet she then took away his rights to edit the film. The DGA, the Directors Guild of America, mandates a 10-week protected period where the director can go privately edit the film. She pushed herself in to do it. She pushed herself in. Notably, despite her allegations that Baldoni made her uncomfortable, Lively sought to spend prolonged close time with him in the confined collaborative space of the editing bay. What was supposed to be a 2-day collaboration of notes turned into 10 days, where Lively sought to work alone and then pushed Baldoni out. We've seen a lot of this in the text message from his own editors that, he eventually got pushed out of the entire editing process.
And it does
believing
sound
that
like
Lively's edit would simply supplement Baldoni's work. He continued refining his cut. However, faced with the possibility of Lively refusing to promote the film in any way, he finally gave in because he realized with all the money and everything else, he couldn't do without her involvement. She then also wanted to be part of all marketing materials, and she wouldn't be part of any of it if he didn't let her film be made. So he felt compelled to acquiesce. And so then they made a friends and family screening of her version, a film that he had not even seen yet, entirely at Lively's insistence. Wafer and Sony found themselves in an unprecedented and uncomfortable predicament. Two competing versions of the film to edit, to the actress producing their own content who had no contractual or creative right. Faced with the withholding of promotion of the film, the studio, Sony, reluctantly agreed to do an official audience test of both versions. So Lively's cut and Baldoni's cut. She then agreed that she would agree that if the director's cut tested higher, she'd drop the matter and cooperate with Baldoni and continue finishing the film. However, Baldoni's cut scored significantly higher. The audiences liked his cut better. Lively then reneged on her promise. She insisted that her cut be the version released to the public, even going so far as to claim that the author of the book would also refuse to promote the film if Lively's version was not chosen. Under immense pressure, Sony once again conceded. This is shocking if true. And there has to be proof, right, Kim? The fact that she's now saying, not only will I not promote it, but now I'm going to get the author to screw you as well. We're going to hijack your film and not promote it all. You're going to be screwed if you don't take my film. Even though yours tested better, I don't care anymore. It's my film. This is awful. She's then, in spite of her contractual obligation, she would not promote it. They agreed at her behest, gave her producer credit, but the commands didn't stop there. This is when they get into a letter where they were forced to write a PGA letter giving her producer credit. They didn't want to. She didn't perform those duties. And then at that point, they were basically instructed that if they didn't agree and do the letter, any goodwill left between us is done. That's what she instructed Sony. So eventually, against all of that, they had to do it, but they then created another letter to their lawyers, making it clear that this letter was sent under duress. She then continued the bullying tactics throughout the whole film, removing the film buy credit on the posters, removing his face from all of the posters. She then got all of this done. She then also unfollowed him along with Ryan Reynolds. They both unfollowed him on social media, as did the author, someone with whom Baldoni had maintained a 5-year personal relationship with, whom Baldoni created this opportunity, and other cast members, creating the false impression that Baldoni had done something wrong. It became clear that Lively was working diligently to contrive a narrative that would explain why she took over the film and exiled Baldoni. He had no intention of ever making this information public, ever. He promoted the film as intended, gave Lively full credit and praise, and wanted the film to succeed. He wanted to move on. However, Lively refused to move on. Now, this goes on, and then they allege that the producers, that Lively and Reynolds made the agents drop him, etc. They've denied that. He was then marginalized at the marketing plan and from his own screening of the film. This is horrific if true. His own friends and family weren't allowed to attend the premiere of his own damn movie or be on the red carpet near any of them. It's no wonder he hired the PR firm, Kim, and had to fight back and be more defensive. As we go through this nitty-gritty of what he alleges, if true, this is a bad look for Blake, no? What are your thoughts?
It's an incredibly bad look for Blake if all of this is true. And I firmly feel like in this situation that there are issues with both allegations. Some of them are very credible and some of them are not. I'm very torn in this, and I'm trying to be objective with it and really take a step back and look at all of it. I think discovery is going to be so important in this case because there's so many of these things that have been claimed. I would assume there are paper trails of this. Things like the film being tested, right? And being scored. If we can see on paper that, yeah, Lively's cut did perform poorly compared to Justin's, then like that looks awful. And oh, it's just such a mess. It is such an incredible mess. And I am looking forward to more information coming out and us getting more evidence because these are both lawsuits. They're both, and people can write anything they want in a lawsuit, and it all doesn't have to be completely true. But I guess we'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for rushing through it all. We just been live for a while. If you want to watch us, if you want to hear more of Kim's thoughts and my thoughts on it, I'm just trying to give you a very quick summary of all this because it's a lot to digest, guys. But it is pretty imperative that you read both this. If you read Blake's, you should definitely read all of Justin's. He also alleges that, yeah, the Lively's publicist was launching negative press against him as early as August 1st. Unfavorable, false, defamatory stories about him, his faith. They were feeding false stories as well. Again, if this is all proven, and I hope, Justin, if he's really telling the truth here, don't give up, see it through, put it through, because I suspect this is all just settle. Because I do, as I said earlier in the live, there's a part of me that wonders if Baldoni is being fully truthful, because even his own reps are talking about how lucky he is, the whispering, and other people that complained. If he really was a creep on set, there's going to be witnesses to attribute to that, right? They're going to come forward and say that. At the same time, if Blake really was a bully who took over the whole movie, there's going to be witnesses to explain that. So in a way, it's probably likely that both have something wrong, and that's why we settle. But if we don't settle, we see this through and it goes through discovery, it's going to be fascinating to find out the truth of this. And I hope we do. And I hope Justin and his team do carry this out, because if true, if what he's alleging in all this is true, shame on Blake and shame on Ryan. It is just shocking, all the allegations here and the bullying that indeed went down to strip him from his own film. Honestly, regardless of whether her instances of harassment, which again, a lot of them feel over exaggerated, if I'm being honest. I don't mean to try to make them feel not important, but I don't know. As we learn more and more about it, was this really worth a lawsuit? Every time you say one instance, he stops, even in your own complaint. Harassment, especially in the place that you filed and everything else, needs to show multiple times of not, doing it and say, you said no and I still kept doing it. And I don't get that vibe here. I sense a lot of miscommunication and maybe some inappropriate behavior that's all being construed into something bigger. And at the end of the day, whether or not that happened, there's no excuse for the way she then still hijacked the film. Apparently, especially if all went well, why were you then trying to hijack the film after the fact? If they gave in and gave you everything you wanted and everything was working out in production, it's insanely shady that she just took over this film. And it makes me look at both Blake and Ryan in new ways, because is that how they're working their ways in Hollywood? Is that right? I don't like it, man. It leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. And what's really, really frustrating me is now Justin's response is deemed an attack. Mark my words, I'm going to be misogynist. I'm sexist. Oh, once again, Andy's not believing the women. Oh, blah, 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 blah. That's the narrative she's playing here. This isn't a he said, she said. This is an attack on us. This is not a feud. Girl, this was clearly a feud. There's clearly a feud here, and this is clearly a he said, she said, and we're going to learn more as it develops. So make sure, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for all alerts, smash that like button as well, and make sure you do it over on It's Kim. Support her channel over on YouTube. She covers it well. We both are covering along. This was a live but epic stream, so if you want to catch it all, become a member on our Patreon. You'll be able to watch our Harry and Meghan documentary as well, and you'll get all of our replays. This one's almost 3 hours long, so if you missed it and you want to catch them, head on over to Patreon and watch it there. I appreciate all you guys that have been watching. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming for you.